Okay, so this episode is about standards. Recently watched Gordon Ramsay's series on Netflix, which I would highly recommend. I've never been his biggest fan. Like him, admire what he's done and built, but always found him a bit brash, a bit loud, playing up to the camera, swearing to kind of create that persona, that image of him. But I was, blown away a little bit by him in the series, in particular around standards and the quality of what he does and what he builds in his team. And I thought I'd start with a quote from him. I demand excellence because I give excellence. And that really stood out for me. His The word sharp kept popping into my head. He's so on it and so sharp, hasn't lost any desire, enthusiasm for what he does and what he wants to create. I loved how he would go into his Lucky Cat restaurant and even before that to test menus and to ensure that his executive chef and the chefs beneath him were performing at the level that he was happy with. And I think because he's been there and done it and performed at that level, he can demand that excellence because he has that respect. But just those sort of I'm not a chef by any means, but just the way that he can pick up on the finer detail, but not just with the food, with how things look, the aesthetics, but also then the people that work for him know that they need to be at their best. They need to be performing to a level that he is going to accept, but more than that, admire. And I think one of the things I loved about it was he was very quick to praise, very quick to pick up on things that he wanted to be improved, but actually it wasn't a negative, it was more feedback to try and make it the very, very best and be at that elite level that he is and that his businesses are. And even his builders and his designers and everybody that's involved with a project like that know the level of detail that they need to be performing at, and he appreciates it. And again, it's one thing to demand that level of service and delivery and design, but actually to reward. And I think once you're in his inner circle and once you have that respect from him, he's somebody that would look after people for the rest of their lives, which came across in the series as well. And I think that only comes from building relationships, but also showing how grateful you are for people's performance, work ethic, all of the things that I know I value. And it was refreshing to see how he got that out of his teams. Okay, question 2. Do you think the standards in a team, business, or even a school environment are largely shaped by the leader at the top? Have you seen that play out in your own businesses? 100%. And I always come back to a school that I was a governor at, Northgate School in Bridgewater, and the head teacher there, Katie, her leadership is phenomenal. Demands really high standards. We deliver holiday camps there, and she's always picking us up on if we've left mess or we've not delivered to the standards that she expects. And one of the things that I've expressed to my team who've sort of taken over that relationship over the years is it comes from a good place. It's not just her picking at things, it's because she has these ultra high standards, and we need to try and match those, if not better them. And she really appreciates the work that we do, the impact that we have with the local community and the children, and getting children moving more, healthy, active, the nutritional side. She gets all of that, but she constantly wants the best for her school and her kids, and rightly so. And the culture that she's created at that school isn't one where she's walking the corridors at the school or would pop into a lesson and the teacher freezes in fear of thinking, oh gosh, she's here to catch me out. It's far from that. It's a collaborative, approach. Everybody feels that Katie has their back, and the staff love her. Sadly, she's retiring in a year and a half, but she's almost like the last of a dying breed in that head teacher role, and how she has run and shaped that school. And it's an incredible school. Potentially could be a really tough school with the demographic, but the behaviour there's amazing. The teachers feel loved and cared for, and she's done an incredible job. And I think, to my own sort of leadership style, the quality side of things is something that I have recognised after watching that series, that it's something that I need to be more on top of. Not that we are slack, but it's an area that could be improved, and the standards that we set. And when we were a smaller team, when I was still delivering, it felt easier for me to demand higher standards because I was still in that world, as in delivering. Whereas since sort of removing myself from that due to the business growing and having another business as well, the standards have slipped, and that's on me, and that's perhaps on the recruitment and management and leadership of that manager's role. So it's certainly playing out in my business and something that I need to start improving, striving to be better at. So yeah. Question 3, how important is it for leaders to recognise where they actually add the most value? This is a really good question, and it's been a busy half term. We're in a transition period at the moment with a new manager being put into place, someone internally that's been promoted, and all of the things that I mentioned earlier about quality of what we're doing and being across everything and making sure that we are sharp like Gordon Ramsay, and ensuring that we're delivering the best possible service to our schools. Kirsty, who's coming into that role, will nail that, I have no doubt, and managing her through that and upskilling her and developing her skill set so that she can do that and add real value to the business will help that to happen. I'm in the weeds at the moment a little bit because I'm on that journey with her to upskill her in terms of her development, in terms of what good looks like in a PE lesson, which is an area for her to upskill in, but also attending school relationship meetings, PE planning meetings ahead of September. So all good things and all valuable things, but it's taken me away from what I'm best at. And I think once we have the management and the structure of the business, Inspired Schools, sorted, much like Renew Education is, I can then get back to what I'm best at, which is strategy and relationships. And I had a meeting on Monday with someone I used to play football with, who's in the same world as me in alternative provision, and it was really refreshing to hear him talk of their model, which is different to mine at Renew, and get inspired and get the juices flowing again, and the cogs turning in my brain to think, well, actually this is great, I really like this idea, could we incorporate some of that into what we're doing at Renew? Can we improve? And I think as a business owner, as a business leader, if we are stuck and think that what we've created and what we do is the right way and the only way, we won't grow. So having that open mindset, that growth mindset is key, and learning off of people that are wherever they are in their journey, I suppose. Like Ellis is further ahead in his alternative provision than I am, and they've been going, I'm not sure how many years, we're 6 months in, and so it'd be remiss of me to not try and learn from somebody who is ahead in that and picking his brains. And it's always nice to meet somebody who is very open and happy to discuss, and we've certainly found that in the world of AP, that there's lots of collaborative working and thinking going on, which is fantastic. And I'm certainly like that myself. I'm always happy to share ideas and share suggestions and strategy and tips, if you like, if that's what people are after. So it's helped me to take a step back ish still have these meetings to do, but actually think, well, I've had to get away from the strategy side of things, and it has taken me away from where I'm best, and I do feel that kind of pull. So after Easter holidays, it's that upskilling will be done, or the bulk of it will be done. The time precious stuff will be handled, and I can get back to what I'm best at: growing a business and new ideas, new projects to drive both inspired and renew forwards. Okay, question 4. Do you think that kind of pressure or uncertainty can fuel ambition and high standards? Okay, so this is in relation to hospitality leaders and how their upbringing and early struggles drove their work ethic. Right, okay, that makes sense. So that pressure or uncertainty, yeah, absolutely. And speaking to Becky and saying, God, like hospitality is not an area that I've ever worked in. I suppose I worked for a catering company, but it was more delivery of catering equipment and picking it up after weddings or functions and things. So I wasn't involved with the hospitality element of it. But what grounding for young people, even if that's not a career that they end up going down, to work in hospitality, to be a waiter or a waitress, or to be front of house, or whatever role it is in that world. Incredible, because you learn so much, or it appears that you would learn so much, like communication skills, customer service, how to deal with difficult customers and having conversations, being forward facing and not being able to hide, and having to build that skill set is invaluable. And I'd love for my 2 girls to perhaps get jobs in that world, just to give them that grounding. Not necessarily that they go on to have careers in that field, but to have that communication skill, fantastic. The work ethic as well, like these people, the chefs, are working crazy hours and constantly striving to be better. And yeah, that work ethic that comes with that, again, invaluable. The resilience as well, especially in hospitality, where quite cutthroat, and a meal could be not liked by a customer, equally it could be, but that dynamic environment as well, ever changing, could be a wedding, could be just a Sunday dinner, but I think it would be a really good grounding for young people to go into. Second quote is from Steve Jobs: "Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected." Love that. And yeah, read a couple of Steve Jobs books, or books about him, and the standards that he set and how he used to push his teams, and love some of the slogans and the logo of Apple, and how it was beauty first with what came out at the first phone, and how the packaging had to be just right and the phone needed to look beautiful, and those standards that he set within his team. And famously always used to set really challenging targets in terms of dates to launch things, and things that would seem impossible, but actually he would push them and demand that excellence and demand that work ethic and drive to get there. Incredible. So yeah, that's great. Final question is: would you ever encourage your daughters to experience that environment? 100%. Really, really would. That, like I said, work ethic, customer service, resilience. And going off on a tangent slightly, that sort of national service that used to be, I think there's definitely a case for that, where if I think of industries where you could gain really valuable personal skills, hospitality would be one, farming jumps out as another. Obviously national service used to be to do with the forces, so again that would be another avenue to explore. Yeah, those are 3 that jump out at me, to give young people a grounding of what work is like, what a working environment is. Because I think, and through no fault of their own at times, it's really hard to get onto the property ladder, right? And people are living at home for longer, and understandably so, because they can't afford to move out. But that gives them a bit of convenience. It doesn't give young people the jeopardy of getting out into the workplace and having rent or a mortgage and bills to pay. So I think national service could be, or a form of that, and people working in environments to gain those skill sets before following the career path that they want to. So I think certain industries have a lot to offer in terms of shaping young people's lives and careers. And what my final point, I suppose, is that having watched the series, listening to a lot of podcasts with business leaders and thought leaders, these standards, and if I think of my sport, football, I'm an Arsenal fan, but everybody talks about Sir Alex Ferguson and probably the greatest manager that's ever lived. But the standards that he set, the values that he wanted his teams to live by, heard podcast episodes with Rio Ferdinand, Patrice Evra, Wayne Rooney, all the sort of legends of Manchester United, and they would talk about, well, he didn't verbally set those out, it was just implemented and backed up by the players in the team. So they lived and breathed his values, and then that transcended then into new players joining, which would be sort of new members of staff joining a team. If the existing teams are living and breathing what us as business leaders want, then people come into that culture, and then they absorb what that means and what that needs to feel like for working and living and breathing that brand, that business. And so it doesn't happen by accident, and it's something that I've learned and still learning, that the culture of a team is so crucial to what you want to set out and achieve. And it's really nice to have Renew as a new business, that we've instilled those values and the team are living them, and hopefully as we add people to the team, it doesn't get diluted. In fact, it gets stronger, because everybody that's coming in wants to make a difference and wants to have that impact on young people's lives. So it doesn't happen by accident. It's something that us as business leaders need to work on and lead from the front.